place that needs to be exposed. Many of the citizens here do not agree with this call to war by the government, and more importantly, by Kamla, Persad-Bissessar and the UNC. And any voices that have been raised against such is brutally victimized. And today we are going to break down this story and tell this Olive Green Jack story from a different angle. Olive Green Jack is not an opposer. She today is a hero in Trinidad and Tobago and should be recognized as such. So who is Olive Jack? Why she would have made such a statement, and why this action by the government of Trinidad and Tobago must be criticized. So we are going into that right now.
Why the order is unwarranted, unconstitutional, and not sedition. A detention order was recently issued against Olive Green Jack, a resident of Diego Martin, after she posted a picture of the Prime Minister's overseas residence and made comments on social media that authorities claim invited violence from Venezuela. The order further alleges that her comments created an imminent threat to public safety. She has now been taken to the women's prison under this administrative order. Workers' Rights 8688 is deeply concerned by the legal basis, constitutional validity, and democratic implications of this action. This newsletter explains, in clear, accessible language, why the detention order is not justified, why it does not meet the legal threshold for sedition, and how the reasoning used by the state fails both legally and logically.
Our constitution here in Trinidad and Tobago would have guarantees specific rights. The freedom of thought, the freedom of expression, the freedom of political opinion, and due process. Now this is something that we must not forget going forward within this video, because what this detention order would have done was take away due process. Now if truth and in fact this was warranted an arrest, why evidence have not been made public within the public domain? That sounds like an oxymoron, but there are many of you may not understand, so that's the reason why we need to break it down a little finer. So stay tuned, and we are going into the rest as we unfold.
1. What the state is claiming. According to the detention notice, the government alleges Olive Green Jack published posts addressed to the Venezuelan government. The posts attempted to influence foreign public opinion in a manner prejudicial to public safety. The comments invited violence upon the Prime Minister, the government, and the public. These actions created an imminent threat to public safety. Therefore, she is to be detained under a preventive detention order. On paper, these claims sound severe. In law, they fall apart completely.
Now, in sifting through the data, many of you would have seen what the state would have proposed that Olive Jack would have done here by allegedly posting a picture online, which we could prove that that is not true. She would have made a video, but the picture is something that wasn't true, but we will go into that as yet. Now, the whole list that the state would have been alleging that Olive Jack would have done, we are going to sift through that and apply logic and legal argument so you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, could understand the position that the state would have taken and why they are wrong. Not all the time they are right, why they are wrong in this instant. Stay tuned.
2. Why this is not sedition. Under Trinidad and Tobago's Sedition Act, the state must prove all of the following: a clear intent to incite violence, disorder, or rebellion, a direct and deliberate call for unlawful action, a real possibility that the speech would lead to immediate public harm. None of these elements are met. 1. No intent to incite violence. The post shows no operational instruction, no planning, no coordination, and no call for real-world action. Harsh political speech is not sedition. Criticizing political leaders, even in strong language, is protected expression in any democracy. Intent cannot be guessed or assumed. It must be proven. No clear call to violence. A social media statement, even one made in anger, is not sedition unless it encourages real, immediate, and specific violence. Courts look for specific targets, plans, logistics, coordination, directives. None were present. Political speech not equal to criminal speech. The Constitution protects citizens' right to criticize political leaders, point out hypocrisy, and speak on matters of public concern. Political commentary, no matter how emotional, is not sedition.
Many of us would have joined the bandwagon and crying down Miss Olive Green-Jack on an action that was taken on social media. But the state would have erred in many ways. Now this violent that they would have said that Olive Jack would have been capable of, was there specific targets? Was there plans? Was there logistics? Was there conditions? Was there directions? And the state would have failed to make its case as to prove the arrest of Olive Jack, being Roger Alexander signing this detention order. Now, I am not saying that the statement may not have been reckless, but it was political commentary. And we would have seen that, people would have made worse statements. But I am not here going to provide a two-way argument. But the mere fact that this detention order have been signed and no evidence have been proven, Trinidad and Tobago must be concerned. Because there is going to be times that you, Trinidad and Tobago, is going to be in opposition to what the government is saying. Is it that this year is an attempt to silence the voices of people that may be in opposition to what the government is saying, or the UNC? And this is a precedent that they are now setting within our beloved country of Trinidad and Tobago. This is the reason why we must stand against this. But again, let us go back and dissect what we are hearing and what we are seeing within the public domain without the influence of these notorious internet bullies and them that is paid to make political commentary.
3. Why the detention order is legally defective. Preventive detention is the most extreme tool the state has, short of criminal prosecution, and therefore must meet strict standards. No evidence of imminent threat. The state claims imminent danger but provides no facts showing a plan, a capability, a coordinated threat, involvement of any foreign actor. A social media post is not evidence of imminent threat. Accusation cannot replace evidence. The disproportionate use of state power. Even if the post was inappropriate, the state had many alternatives. A warning, a caution, a police interview, a request for removal, a regular criminal charge if they believed a law was broken. Jumping straight to detention without trial is disproportionate and excessive. 3. Violates constitutional rights. The Constitution guarantees freedom of expression, freedom of political opinion, due process of law, protection from arbitrary detention, equality before the law. A preventive detention order based on a political comment violates at least 3 of these rights. No clear chain of causation. The detention order assumes that the post could influence Venezuela, but it provides no proof that Venezuelan officials saw it. They responded to it. They interpreted it as a call to action. They intended to act. The allegation is speculative and unsupported.
Now, the legal jargons that we would have said within the commentary before. Let me break this thing down now. There is no clear case of causation. Who Olive Jack was reporting to? What specific group that she would have said, hey, assassinate this one? Is there plans? People of Trinidad and Tobago, if you believe that Olive Jack is guilty for what she would have said within the public domain, we must then ask ourselves one question: how we would have arrived to that conclusion? Have you listened to a broadcast or from a social media influencer that is aligned with the UNC? Or have I come up with that on my own? Have I listened to an opinion from a friend or a family that is in line with the UNC? If the answer to those questions are yes, no wonder why you would have came up with that opinion. Now, what I am asking you to do, Trinidad and Tobago, is to think logically and be truthful in the information that that you discover outside the limits of these organizations. I mean, we could continually say that the statement is worthless, but it was a political statement. I don't want war in Trinidad, and I is just one person. I would have talked to thousands of people concerning that, and they would have said the same thing. Just look at the analytics on this page. Just a few days ago, 800 people would have subscribed to this platform, knowing very well what we would have stand for, and still they would have subscribed nonetheless, because we are logical thinkers. And we are asking you, Trinidad and Tobago, stop. We have reached a point that information is well within the public domain. Know where you are gathering your information, and gather information outside of the pool that you are accustomed to, outside of your circle. Sometimes that is needed for you to see and understand the truth. So let's go back right into the video and let's break down what you already know logically.
4. The logical fallacies in the government's argument. Crossmark non sequitur. They assume that because a post was public, it was addressed to the Venezuelan government. Posting something publicly does not mean it was directed at a foreign state. Crossmark appeal to fear. They claim disaster will follow from the post without showing how or why. Fear cannot substitute for evidence. Crossmark slippery slope. They suggest one post will trigger international violence. This is an exaggerated leap with no factual support. Crossmark circular reasoning, begging the question. They argue a threat exists simply because the detention order says so. The order cannot prove itself true.
The question now that must be asked is what this really look like. Come on now, man. This is political victimization. When citizens who criticize a government or opposition party are detained without trial, the public must ask these three questions. So hold up before you come at me. These three questions must be asked after things like this take place. Is this national security or political revenge? Is this the law being applied equally or selectively? Is this the state protecting safety or silencing dissent? Now, if you can't answer all these questions, something wrong. Because selective enforcement, where ordinary citizens are punished for speech while politicians engage in worse rhetoric, creates the appearance of political victimization. Democracy dies in silence. So whereas the Prime Minister, who was then opposition, would have made statements, empty the clip, and we would have heard Wayne Sturge would have said that if somebody enters your premises, it's okay to shoot them in the back. Where is the political victimization then? Where is the silencing then? Trinidad and Tobago, you need to wake up. This, what would have taken place here with Olive Jack, is not, it called for a lot of concern. The dangerous precedents that is set there must be distinctively stated, because if this detention stands, then any frustrated citizens on social media could be jailed. Political criticism could be reclassified as public danger. Or you see the rabbit hole that we are going down. Fear becomes a tool of control. Government accountability collapses. This is why civil society groups must speak out. This is not just about Olive Jack here again. This is about you. When you are in opposition to the government, could they reclassify your statement as public danger? Again, nobody. Many of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago is not in alignment to when the Prime Minister say that, with this thing with Maduro and the war situation, civil society needs to speak out. Don't let the Prime Minister of this country, because of your love for her, some of you love her, and nothing wrong with that. But don't let that be, don't let your love for the Prime Minister leave her out of scrutiny, fair scrutiny. So, what should happen next? We here, the workers' rights, we call for an immediate legal review on the detention order, release of Olive Jack pending judicial determination is something that was done with CPEP, transparency on the evidence alleged used to justify the detention, guidelines of distinguishing political speech from genuine threats. We need those guidelines. Public education on consultation, freedom of lawful expression. No citizens should face imprisonment for political commentary, especially without a trial, like what was done to Olive Jack. No citizens, whether you are PNM, whether you are UNC or anything other in between, nobody should be facing jail without due process. And again, this thing here have been used as a political tool to silence dissenting voices. Now, we would have came up with some solution concerning this. My final word on this statement, Amatapa. Detention requires democracy, requires freedom of expression, especially when speech criticizes those in power. The detention order against Olive Jack does not meet the legal standard of sedition, does not meet the constitutional threshold for preventative detention, and rests on a weak logic and questionable motive. So we are on this workers' rights platform, this saying, and it's firm within our stance, that this detention is not justified. This is not sedition. This is political overreach and likely political victimization. We remain committed in defending the rights of all citizens against unlawful state power in this case. So regardless to the factor that explaining this could jeopardize my safety, not against a criminal, not against somebody who trying to outsmart somebody or rob somebody or kill somebody. This is against the state, the government of Trinidad and Tobago. We risk, by explaining this here today, I just risk my freedom. Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension the world. It's sad to see what is going on within my country, and it's hoping for the best. It's hoping that the Prime Minister at least listen to what the people is saying. We are not out of it across. We do not agree with you, Prime Minister, on the stance you take to align with the US government in engaging war on Venezuela. And we all know what this war is about, what it is for. It is not on these drug boats and this whole scenario. This war is against the people of Venezuela and their resources. That's what it is. Simple. And we are urging the relevant authority as to treat with this matter and for the world to understand the position that we are in here in Trinidad and Tobago, underneath especially this government who is seeking to silence dissenting voices. Thanks for watching. My name is Minister Jeffrey and this is the Workers' Rights Platform. Please subscribe and show a like. Put a like, share our video, like it, subscribe to what we are doing. And it oftentimes gives us the motivation to continually do things like this going forward within the future. Thanks for watching.
Madam, me don't know you from nowhere. And you getting it twisted. You can't silence me. To talk lies on my page? Never. When the young man who came up on social media stated he could tie up the PNM supporters' hand with tying string and lock them up in a place that they can't go and vote on election day, that is a negative statement to society. When he stated that Mr. Kit Rowley should have been on the plane that crashed, so he too could die, that also a negative statement to society. Calling the women in CPEP, URP and forestry programs skettle and good for nothing Negro women is a very, very disappointed statement to society. Closing down Milot and the CCC program for our black children to have a trade or a skill so they can help themselves, because not everybody born to have book work and to be on top in certain levels in life. You close on all these programs and call black people children good for nothing. All they know to do is stay on the block and smoke. But all the program Mr. Kit Rowley and his administration open for them not to smoke and waste their life. You close it down and then insult the parents that trying with their children. That is a negative impact on Trinidad and Tobago. You can't get me to talk anything different than what society is seeing and know. Kamla put us in the center of a war that we knows nothing about because of power and greed. Now, Mr. Maduro stating that Trinidad have cartels running. She cartels. That's our next story, because if them can get a thing to move the way they want it move, on how she promised them they go move and come to them, they go have problems. So she put us in her kankata and still don't want to answer where everybody's seeing all over the world with Trinidad and Tobago. Let me tell you something. Move your racial, deceitful, hypocrite, dotish self over my page. You and your bunch of dotish racial group will never get me to bow to say nothing about your boss or your prime minister than what the whole world already seeing. You're too racial and deceitful and hypocrite. Don't ever come back on my page. Go from here.
So be warned, they will use this law against all their opponents, whether it's religious, civil society, politicians, they will come against us. And I stand to say we must not be afraid to speak out against this government. A lot of countries have now abolished this sedition law. It's old. Yes, it's old. But what was the intent? The intent was to shut up people, to prevent people from protesting against bad conditions is intention of law. That law has no place in our independent democratic country. So we have... What the hell you should be doing is locking them up. Put them behind bars. Put them behind bars. Put them behind bars. I say no more. This is just too disgusting. And there must be, I think one of you called for an investigation, Rudy. There must be a serious investigation, not by the TTPS, but by an independent body as to how police could be negotiating peace deal with bandits.
Minister, pardon us, we saw a woman was arrested for comments that she made via social media, which according to the detention order may have incited violence against the government. What is the government's response to her arrest?
It should have come sooner. What I can say is that we have seen time and time again public officials, and you saw it happen in the former administration as well. There's only so far that you can go in terms of putting the lives of public officials and private citizens at risk by putting up the Prime Minister's residence. Her location puts her at a tremendous risk, and therefore that's why I said it took long in coming, but it is justifiable.
Here's what happened. The Homeland Security Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Roger Alexander, sat down, he picked up a pen and he wrote directly to the US Embassy, not about crime, not about visas, but about Trinidadians that are living overseas and what they are posting online. The accusation? They are spreading fear. That's right. According to Trinidad Express, Alexander claims that some Trinidadians that are living in the US with US visas, green cards, and even dual citizenships, they are using social media to push defamatory, inflammatory, intentional propaganda against the country. Be it videos, be it live streams, be it online news shows. And he says that these broadcasts, they are creating panic at home. Well, now let me tell you about the explosive request here. In his letter to Charge d'Affaires, Dr. Jennifer, the minister asked for something really dramatic. The US should revoke their visas. Yes, cancel the travel privileges of Trinidadians that are living abroad because of what they say online. The reason? National security. Alexander believes that these online voices, they are shaking public trust, fueling fear and hurting the country's stability. And now he is asking Washington to step in and punish them. That's right, the Express says that the letter will reach the US Embassy this particular week. Now the entire region is on the edge. This controversy isn't happening in isolation. Caribbean politics is already really tensed. Trinidad battling misinformation. In fact, St. Vincent accusing foreign players of meddling in its elections. Diaspora influencers are gaining huge power online. Now here, governments are feeling the heat, and some say that the fire is coming from abroad. So here's the bigger question, ladies and gentlemen. Will citizens abroad criticize their homeland online? Or it is free speech? Or is it a national security threat? Now that debate has now landed directly on the desk of the United States Embassy. And Trinidad and Tobago waits for Washington's next move.
Be present, then you ask me about the ship. I have no answers for that at this time because I know I haven't seen any ship.
That is embarrassment.
If it happens, trust that your government will stand with you and we will make the best possible decision in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
That is embarrassment.
ABC News' Matt Rivers was on a fishing boat down the islands when the team observed a destroyer and an amphibious assault ship heading east.
If I saw a ship there and you see me present, then you ask me about the ship. I don't know. I have no answers for that at this time because I know I haven't seen any ship.
That is embarrassment.
If I saw a ship there and you see me present, then you ask me about the ship. I don't know. I have no answers for that at this time because I know I haven't seen any ship.
That is embarrassment.
If it happens, trust that your government will stand with you and we will make the best possible decision in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
That is embarrassment.
ABC News' Matt Rivers was on a fishing boat down the islands when the team observed a destroyer and an amphibious assault ship heading east.
If I saw a ship there and you see me present, then you ask me about the ship. I don't know. I have no answers for that at this time because I know I haven't seen any ship.
That is embarrassment.
It's for the people who worked hard to get qualified, but still sit at home depressed because he or she cannot get a job.
For a party that has had in its manifesto for quite some time that one of the things you'll want to work on is creating a wider job market and getting jobs for younger people, you all are not doing a very good job.
Because someone else got that job because they have a daddy and they have the connections. Election day is for the mother walking the aisles of the grocery store with her children and with a pen and a pencil or a calculator in her hand because the food prices keep rising and she has to keep a tab on what she can buy. When a child picks up a snack, that mother must not have to tell that child put it back because she cannot afford it. Everybody deserves an equal chance.
Former CPAC workers say they remain in limbo following the termination of over 300 contracts due to alleged irregularities. And while they support an audit, they wanted to know when they will be rehired.
Everybody deserves an equal chance.
Landlord coming by the door. Landlord knocking on your door. You can't afford to pay rent. They're putting all your stuff at the side of the road. That is embarrassment. As you now said, the pending investigation, we will get rehired. We cannot say, landlord, we're going to get rehired. You could wait a month or 2 or 3. How long is that?
Election day is for the mother walking the aisles of the grocery store with her children and with a pen and a pencil or a calculator in her hand.
Former CPAC workers say they remain in limbo following the termination of over 300 contracts